You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
We have a special guest on the line, the Masshole himself, Mike McCarthy. Good evening, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure, and our apologies that things got snafu'd last week. It almost seems like they got snafu'd this week, but thankfully we were able to pull it all together at the last minute. So I'm glad you're here, and you're competing in a very big show this weekend, the Iron 8 for New England Championship Wrestling. Why don't you tell everybody all about that?
Well, the Iron 8's like it's a pretty unique concept in professional wrestling. It's the name says 8. There's 8 competitors, 4 matches, one-on-one matches. The winners of those first 4 matches then go on to the final, which is a 4-way 45-minute Iron Man match with the winner.
It's like a traditional Iron Man match. Whoever gets the most pinfalls or submissions.
Most pinfalls or submission wins at the end. But it's a 4-way, and it's definitely interesting. You don't see a lot of that on the indies. You don't see, last year's was awesome. It was, Brad Hollister won last year, and he not only did he win the Iron 8, but he ended up winning the NECW heavyweight title, which was vacated. We also have, on Saturday that match as well, Brad Hollister and Slick Wagner Brown, for the NECW heavyweight title, which is definitely going to be a barn burner,
Oh, absolutely. I wish I could be there in New England and check out the show live. Unfortunately, I can't make it to Beverly, Massachusetts on short notice, but I know New England Championship Wrestling always puts on great shows. We've had on Sheldon Goldberg many times to talk about that, and I know the Iron 8 this year will be no exception.
Yeah, I mean, you've got great competitors. You've got, myself. You've got, Anthony Green, who's, been wrestling a few years. Started off as a ring crew, as a ref for a while. The kid has passion. The kid can go. He's young. He's, every time I see him out there, he's improving. You got, the Canadian giant Genesis, who's, easily the largest man in the tournament this year. Got some newcomers to NECW, Chris Escobar, who's from, the Mid-Atlantic region. Who I'm not that familiar with, but, I hear the kid can go. You got Brandon Thurston from, I think he's from the 2CW area up in New York. And then you've got Nick Fahrenheit, who's a 3-time NECW tag team champion. You've got sensational Scott Levesque, who's the current NECW TV CHAMP.
And as Sheldon has noted, he's no relation to Paul Levesque.
Yeah. And then you have, probably who, if it came down to it, I obviously plan on winning the whole thing and making it to the finals. And if I had my choice of, who could be there with me, it would definitely be Toto Loco, who's, he's been a thorn in my side here and there, but, I could imagine, a better opponent, being out there with him and I when we're out there. It's just, we just bring the best out of each other. I don't know what it is. Certain guys you get in there with, they just make you go. They make you go harder. They make you hit harder. They make you go faster. And he's one of those guys where, any night of the week, I would work and he pushes me, and we never do it's never like the same match. It's always a pleasure to be in there with him,
Right. So I guess he's one of those guys.
I'll never tell him that though.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's like, you might respect him, but you're not going to let him know. You're going to keep that to yourself. Except for the people who just heard it on the air, but they'll be the only ones who know.
Yeah.
So now I have to assume in a Iron Man match such as this, even though it's a 4-way and there's a chance of multiple people getting the most pinfalls, it's still got to come down to some sort of tiebreaker if 2 people have the exact same amount.
Yeah. I don't really know how that made overtime, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that would be Austin and Hart. It'd have to go to a sudden death overtime or something.
Yeah, then you'll get the easy 5 more minute chant that'll happen.
Of course, but that's what makes it interesting to me is, the overtime has always been just 2 people for sudden death. But what if 3 people are tied? What if all 4 of you are tied? Then it's going to get really chaotic.
Yeah, then you just well, hopefully, it's like boxing, leaving it in the hands of the judges. I'm going to do my best to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm going to try to, either pin them all as many times as I can, or choke each one of them out as many times as I can. I'd like to think that I'm pretty good on the ground with some pretty unique submissions, and that's my goal going in there is try to choke people out, try to wear them down. It's all you can do, I guess.
Well, do you see yourself as a UFC style submission specialist then? Is jiu-jitsu and ground game something that you bring to pro wrestling when you do your matches?
I wouldn't necessarily say MMA or jiu-jitsu or anything. I just think I prefer that, I'm going to get a lot less injured doing that than I am, flipping and flying. But I mean, I can do that too. In a four-way, you're going to expect it. There's going to be some high flying. There's going to be some hard hit. There's going to be, and that's the cool thing about this tournament. It's like, there's some unknowns out there. Like, I don't know, what people are going to be capable of and bring out in this. Hopefully it brings out the best in everybody. Cause I plan on winning the whole thing, but I don't want to go out there and just like steamroll people. I want people to push me to my limits. I want the people who are paying their money, their hard-earned money to be able to like, go do something. If they're going to pay their money, I want them to get their money's worth. I want them to come out there and be like, that was one hell of a show. Like, now it'll bring new fans in. Like, so the next show we have will be bigger, better. That's how you try to build off that.
Absolutely. And it's for the hard-earned money. It's not an unreasonable amount of money to see the Iron 8 this weekend. It's $15 in advance, $20 at the door. Kids under 12, just $10 either way. So it's a very affordable night of family entertainment for people who come. And I want to ask this question myself, but I'm going to defer to my co-host Jordan because I know he's dying to ask about your nickname. So Jordan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Mike, pretty much. How did the whole Masshole gimmick come about? It's such a really cool idea. And just tell us how it came about, and you got the flag and everything, and just tell us how it all came about.
All right. So, I've played in like hardcore and punk bands since the 90s, and we were on the band that I've been in for the past like 13 or 14 years was on a record label called Bridge 9 Records, and he also, the guy who owns Bridge 9 Records also owns Sully's Tees. I don't know if they do like all the, like Belichick My Balls and all those shirts. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen them. They do all like the New England sports team, like knockoff gimmick shirts, so he actually owns the trademark to Masshole. So, I actually had to call him and be like, hey, do you mind if I use this? And, he was like, no, not at all. And I'll be 100% honest. It was, I used to wrestle years ago. I did like a jackass gimmick and stuff. And when I came back, I said, like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to come back as me. But then it was like Mike McCarthy was just it's like fucking, it's kind of bland and boring. It's like an everyday name. And, I've lived in Boston my whole life. I lived in Massachusetts. So, it just kind of went hand in hand. But to be honest, it's all about selling merch. People see those shirts, they want them. I can't keep that, like that Bruins knockoff shirt that I have. Like, I can't keep that in stock. It just goes. So like, it's, it's kind of like it's who I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm like I said, born and raised in Massachusetts, and I think that with the winters that we had this year, everyone's kind of like, if you're from here, you're a Masshole, you go anywhere else. We talk abrasive, we act abrasive, just how we are. And I kind of embody that, so it's kind of like just a natural thing for me.
I've worked with Sheldon Goldberg before. Actually, I haven't worked with him. I've done an interview with him many times. And tell us what it's like working for Sheldon Goldberg in NECW.
Well, it's like working with anybody, and you have your days where you have great houses and you make great, you make good money. Then you have the other shows where you don't. It's like working with anybody. Sometimes you don't see eye to eye with a promoter. Sometimes you just disagree with things, but you got to realize it's their vision, and they give you lemons, you make lemonade. But for the most part, Sheldon and I, she's treated me well. We get along really well. I don't think at first that he saw much in me, I'll be honest. But I think after a little while, cutting promos, my hard work, I'll go out there and I'll work with anybody. And, I think that he sees that in me now, and he fully supports me. And I definitely know that he's got my back. The guy knows wrestling. The guy lives, breathes, loves professional wrestling. I can't stress enough about how much he cares and loves professional wrestling. Like all of us, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it,
Besides wrestling and performing in front of the crowds, what do you enjoy the most about wrestling?
I don't know. It's like that whole feed the ego, like, hey mom, look at me thing, we're all self-centered. But it's, it's like just growing up. I was, my whole life, he was a huge fan. It's like all I ever wanted to do was like play in punk rock bands and be a professional wrestler. So like if this is as far as I make it, then like I'm psyched. I got to say I did it. Do I want to go further? Of course, 100%. If I could make a living on just being a professional wrestler, I would in a second.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Back to you, Steve.
Well, that's actually a great follow-up question for a segue, because I was going to ask if you've had any tryouts with WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, if you've done any enhancement work for any of them.
No, the thing is, how do I put this? I'm 38 years old. I think WWE is kind of out of the question. The travel schedule is not something that I really want at this point in my life. Also, I don't think, they're like morality clauses and their wellness policies. And, it's like just not what I'm about. But is there another viable option out there for me to make a living as a professional wrestler? Yeah, definitely. There definitely is. There's Ring of Honor, there's TNA, there's, Global Force starting. These are all definitely options for me. Like, I'm definitely going down to the next Ring of Honor camp. There's no reason I shouldn't. There's guys there who are going to outwork me. There's guys there who, are bigger, stronger, faster, but nobody's going to go out there and tell a better story than I am. Nobody's going to be able to talk. And that's where, when I go to these things, that's where I'm going to succeed. And that's where, I'll stand out, I think.
Yeah, I would say definitely the promo is probably one of the areas you're going to outshine a lot of people, because I can tell you're very energetic, you're very gruff, you're very passionate about what you're saying. So I have a feeling that stands out when you cut a promo at a lot of these shows.
Well, the thing is, you have to be passionate about it. If you get behind that microphone or in front of that camera and you don't convey that to the people watching, or if they don't believe you, if you don't believe yourself, these people are going to know that you're full of shit. You know what I mean? So you got to be passionate about it. You have to believe in yourself. If you don't, you go out there, you're already doomed. You've already lost,
Absolutely. So what would you say, out of all your time working in independent wrestling and going around to different territories and places, what's been your best feud, and or maybe what's been the best promo you've gotten to deliver on somebody?
Oh, jeez. There's guys who, when I think about working them, I get excited. You know what I mean? Like guys like Toto Loco. Every time I get in the ring with him, it's always exciting. It's always something new. It's always, like I said, pushing each other to limits. There's a guy named, Too Hot Steve Scott, who works out of, New Jersey. I've only got to work with him one time, and he's a guy that dying to work with again. The kid just has that thing that just brings it out of me, and those are the people I want to be in the ring with. I want to go out there with people who are going to push me, who are going to make me better, who I'm going to learn, not only learn about professional wrestling, but learn what I'm capable of doing. You know what I mean? Like, what do I have inside me? Like, how much further can I go? How much more can I be pushed? And for me, like, those are the best matches. Those are the best times I have in professional wrestling, when I didn't know I had that in me, and it came out.
Well, and that's stuff that people can check out if they go to NECW's YouTube channel, right? I'm sure that's all up there.
Oh yeah. There's a plethora of my ridiculousness up there.
See, that's that eloquent tongue again. A plethora of ridiculousness. That's what I love. Get more wrestlers in WWE to show that kind of personality when they're delivering a promo, instead of just reading the lines that are handed to them on a script. Because that kills me every time. You could tell it's phony when they do that. Yeah, well, you gotta have personality, but also like I said, you gotta believe in yourself. Like, if I'm out there, if somebody writes a promo for me,
I can take their bullet points, but if it's not my words, it's going to come through, and people are going to know that that's not honest. It's not real. Even if I'm saying something ridiculous, you know what I mean? If I'm saying something like just spelling words, or like going out there with Kevin Castro and just humiliating him in every chance I can get, he's one of the backstage announcers for NECW. And every time I get to be in front of a camera with him, it's always gold. It's always gold.
Well, something else we can look forward to at NECW's Iron 8 this weekend is maybe we'll do some vignettes with him, and those will end up on YouTube or a DVD or both.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, it'll definitely end up on the DVD and on YouTube. We did 90 something weeks of network television on Cozy TV up here, in the Boston area. It seemed to do pretty well. So now I know that they're definitely looking to get back on television. And that was a great experience for me too. Like I can talk for days. I'll sit in front of, just from being in bands and stuff, knowing how to control a crowd. But being able to be on TV was awesome for me. Being able to sit and watch and be like, okay, anybody can film something and put it on YouTube, and YouTube's a great tool for people. But for me, it was cool. That's television. Even though it was a small market, it was just local. But it's network, it was network television. It was cool to be able to say yeah, I wrestle on TV. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Not everybody gets that chance. So it is something to brag about. And I want to ask a side question because I noticed you mentioned punk rock a little earlier. Have you played in a punk rock band? Do you do punk rock, or are you just a fan of punk rock?
No, yeah, I've been playing in bands since the mid '90s in Boston. I currently play in 2 different bands now. I play guitar in a band called Nothing But Enemies, and I sing in a band called For the Worse. Both have been around since the early 2000s.
Do you find there's some similarities then when you're playing punk rock to the energy that you get when you're performing in front of a wrestling audience?
100%. For me, it's there's a lot of similarities. For me, I still give like my all in both. You know what I mean? It's like, I try to, like with music, you can go and you can buy a band's record and listen to it, and it could be an awesome record. But if I go to pay my money to go see a band live, I want to be entertained. I don't want them just to go through the motions. You know what I mean? And just like stand up there and be boring. Like, yeah, you got to give your all. You know, you got to have everything you have, leave it all out there.
Yeah, you want to see people running around, screaming, sweating, jumping up and down, high-fiving the fans, just totally losing their shit and having a good time.
And that's the thing for punk rock for me, and hardcore and punk rock music for me. It's tangible. You can touch it. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm just sitting behind some big, huge barricade with some, like, you know, rock star who doesn't give a shit about me. It's like, here's the microphone. I wrote these lyrics, you know, sitting on my toilet, and now here I am in like Atlanta, Georgia, and some kid I've never met is screaming in the back of my face, stealing the microphone from me. Like, that's such an awesome feeling. You know, I would never meet this kid otherwise. You know what I mean? Now we get to share ideas, concepts. We get to like meet, talk, you know, have a drink, whatever. It's like, for me, it's definitely tangible, and it's something that's been with me since, you know, I was, you know, 14 years old and had my got my first mohawk. You know what I mean? Now it's just like, it's been with me my whole life. It's the only thing that's never really let me down, you know? It's like always been there.
Yeah, I think independent wrestling at its very best is like that too, because when you go to WWE, you're one of 10, 15,000 people. You can't really get that intimate connection with the performers unless maybe you're privileged enough or have enough money to sit in the front row. But when you're at an 100%. Indie show, you get to actually interact with the wrestlers. You get to yell at them. They can hear you. They can yell back. They high five you or they sneer at you. Whatever's going on, you're actually part of the show. 100%.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree that the similarities between like a DIY run punk rock show and, you know, like a wrestling show are a lot the same. You're interactive. It's for me going to see indie shows before I started working. That was the same thing. It was like, you know what? Now I want to do this. Like, I don't know. I just see a lot of it the same.
I think I do too. So we're on the same wavelength, and that makes me glad we had you on for this interview, because I feel like I understand you, brother. I know where you're coming from. I know what you like. I'm kind of right there in that same boat with you.
Ooh, I appreciate you guys having me. And, you know, for anyone out there listening, you know, if you're in the Boston area, you know, what else are you going to do on a Saturday night? You spend $20, you come down, you see an awesome night of action that ends early enough where you can still go out and do other things at the end of the night, go hang out, you know?
Right. And where are you going to get this kind of action like the Iron 8 for only $20? You're not going to see anything for less than $20 these days. You can't even go to the movie theater for less than $20.
No, it's like, and you know, what are you going to do? Go to a bar and have 2 beers? Like,
right.
Come out, see some action. So, like, obviously, if you're listening to the show out there, you're a fan of professional wrestling. You know, it's like, what else are you going to do on a Saturday night? You know, sit at home and, like, you know, there's only so much porno you can watch.
I hate to admit it, but I was thinking that myself. Like, I'm thinking in the back of my head, what are you going to do on a Saturday night if you don't go out? Sit at home and watch YouPorn. That's probably what a lot of people who don't go out do.
And you'll still have time to do that. You know, the shows, typically a 2.5, 3 hour show at the most, you know?
Yeah, so if you really want to go home after that, you know, bell time is 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you got that in mind and you just got to rub one out, you can still go home and do that later.
Yeah, or beforehand, whatever.
Whatever, indeed.
Just not during.
Yeah, please no. Don't get yourself arrested. Don't gross out your fellow fans or the wrestlers. So let's go ahead and get some plugs in. We've already been plugging the New England Championship Wrestling 2015 Iron 8 Championship that takes place Saturday night at the Cove Community Center, 19 East Corning Street, Beverly, Massachusetts. But I want to get your plugs in as well for T-shirts, for social media, anything else you want to throw out there, Mike. Please go ahead.
You know, I don't really have, much, you know, I mean, you can search me on the Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. You know, it's the Masshole Mike McCarthy on Instagram.
So that Twitter account I ran across that said Masshole Rules, that's not you?
Well, it was, but I just never use it because I don't really get it. Like, I'm not good at Twitter, so I would just stopped twitting or whatever the kids call it these days.
All right. Well, that's fair. So you're on Facebook and you've got t-shirts, and best way to get them is probably just show up there at the show, or can they get them through Facebook as well?
Yeah. If someone wants to just send me a message, definitely I always have shirts in stock. It's like, I'm not going to get rich being an indie wrestler. You know what I mean? It's just, there's no way you just don't do it,
Right.
Well,
So,
yeah, but we can enjoy it.
Bucks, some t-shirts, like, why not? They're cool looking, it's like, I don't know.
and if nothing else, it'll pay your gas money to get from one show to the next show. That I hear that from indie bands when I interview them. They're like, yeah, please buy our merch because that puts gas in our tank.
Well, that's the thing with that. That's the thing with music nowadays. Like, you can't download a t-shirt. You know what I mean? You can't illegally download a t-shirt.
And even if you got a 3D printer, you can't print a t-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I pay. There's people that come to the shows all the time. These guys are in the front row, and like they make their own Mike McCarthy shirts. It says like Mike McCarthy is an asshole, which is weird because it's not even grammatically correct.
What's weird is apparently there was a curse word in there because something went beep and censored you while you were saying that.
I think I got a text message or something.
It wasn't the producer.
Okay. Well, we'll figure that one out in post. But anyway, Mike, I want to say it's been a pleasure tonight, and thank you so much for coming on to join us on Thursday Night AMP. And after the Iron 8, let's have you back on again sometime and talk some more about how the show went and what you got coming up next.
100%, man. It was my pleasure anytime. And, thanks for having me. And, hopefully, you guys succeed, and hopefully we bring out some more people to the show that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
That's our plan. So everybody in the sound of my voice right now that's living within driving distance of the Cove Community Center in Beverly, Massachusetts, Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Bell Time. You don't want to miss it. The Iron 8 Championship.